Episode 13. Premature Incineration. The next evening, the child was impatient and could hardly wait for bedtime. The sudden disappearance of the adventurers into the chronoflux with Calculus Pigatus meant only one thing. "Another adventure!" the child told the father at the dinner table when he asked how the story was going. "They jumped into Piggy's space hole right before Professor Penn. He landed on his nose." "Nib," the mother corrected. "Pens have many parts, just like precision instruments. It is good if you can learn their names. Different pens make different shaped strokes. The art of drawing beautiful letters with them is called calligraphy. Would you like to try that for yourself?" "Oh, yes," the child responded eagerly. "Last night we learned the names of bricks in a wall. I think Mummy was a bricklayer once." "Well," said the father, "how appropriate. Now, where did Arky and his friends go this time? Have they gone on with their mission?" "Who knows?" the mother replied, happy to hear her child so involved in the story. "Tonight at bedtime we will start by finding out where they reappeared." Again the world seemed to spin as lights and blackness closed in on Arky. How long or how far he fell he never could tell, but when the darkness faded, Arky saw that he was at the bottom of a pile of his buddies, all tumbling towards some sort of sandy ground. Ka-wump! The adventurers came toppling down onto Arky in a heap that almost shook his entablature open. Beta flopped over his abutments. Then Ify crashed down over him, and finally the little handlings landed on top of the stack. Well, thought Arky, at least we didn't all come down on Lenny. That could have put a crack into his... He never finished his thought, because he now saw he was looking straight through Beta's main gear, right at Golgothicus. Beta and the others were starting to moan as they awoke from the hard landing. "Shh! Quiet!" whispered Arky. They barely stirred. Arky could sense that everyone was now watching Golgothicus, and that they were too scared to move. "If we lie still, maybe we will just look like a heap of junk superfluity," Arky thought. He noticed they were half hidden behind some stone walls made of bricks that were quivering. In front of them, Golgothicus was in a rage. "What have you done to it?" he shouted at someone. "Bring me those captured mechanisti. We will have to find a new leg for it." He turned and strode a few paces away, his buttresses marching stiffly. Arky was relieved that the Gothic king had not noticed their arrival and decided that now was a good moment to untangle themselves. Carefully he slid Beta and Ify off his abutments without a sound and even got Lenny down quietly. They crouched behind a wall and peered over at the Gothic arches before them. Zaino had climbed up onto Ify's structure. "I'll give him to Arky when this is all over," she thought to herself. She looked over at Lenny and noticed how transfixed he was by the giant Gothic arch-king. He seemed to be staring at his mutilated Rosone. She nudged Lenny quietly, and he retreated into Arky's shadow. Golgothicus was standing over a strange figure crumpled against another wall. It was like a flattened disc with zigzag stripes. Two shiny steel arms came out of the sides with grippers holding spears of some sort. From below, a metal leg with a foot appeared. The other side was missing. While the frightened friends watched, the tall black Gothic archers marched a bent and battered bicycle towards it. Golgothicus pressed one of his tremendously powerful buttresses into the velocipede's frame, pinning it to the ground. "Hold still," he commanded, and twisted his upper arch until the sunlight flared through his Rosone. With a flash, a beam of red light jumped down towards the bicycle below. Sparks flew and metal screamed. Smoke and the smell of burnt paint and rubber filled the air. Arky drew the others close to him, shielding the smallest from the glare. But as scared as he was, Lenny wanted to see what was happening, and pulled out from behind Arky to watch. What he saw was horrifying. The bicycle had been torched in half by the light from the Rosone, and Golgothicus was trying to wedge its front wheel, fork and handlebars into the spot where the fallen figure had no leg. The rest of the bicycle lay smouldering, rendered a purposeless superfluity by the brutal act. Lenny could not stop staring at the Gothic king's mighty Rosone, hypnotized by the thought this once beautiful window of brightly colored glass had been twisted into a device of destruction and evil. The little handlens wanted to tell Arky something, but didn't dare to. The scene in front of them was too terrifying to interrupt. Golgothicus tried many times to poke the front half of the bicycle into the painted disc on the ground. "It is not working," he raged. "It cannot will the mechanisti into action, and neither can they adjust their purpose to match his. We need a different sort of inanimati. Bring me a youch!" To everyone's shock and surprise, Golgothicus appeared to leap over the low wall in one bound, trailing smoke. Arky looked around and saw that Lenny, in his curiosity, had gotten himself between the evil king and the sun, and without realizing it had fried a hole into Golgothicus's arch supports, just as Beta predicted. Lenny looked up at Arky and then hung the ring of his lens apologetically. "Sorry," he muttered in a low voice as Golgothicus flapped and danced to put out the fire. The young adventurers stood stunned, but Beta had to laugh. "Ha! I knew it! Great shot, Lenny! Right in the buttress!" "Woohoo, Lenny," Arky added. "I don't think that was good timing at all. Let's get out of here. Beta, give us a dust screen." They all jumped up and ran, Beta spinning his blades in the dry sand as he skidded back and forth, throwing up a huge cloud of dust to hide their escape. They ran through the maze of bricks walls unchallenged. The Mori did not know how to stop them without orders. But they could hear Golgothicus bellowing in the distance. "Catch them, you fools!" he was shouting. The topmost stones of the Mori sprang into action. Soon waves of flying bricks appeared in the air, soaring towards them and landing with a smack into the sandy soil. With each new incoming flight, the bricks were landing nearer to the fleeing young inanimati. Wherever they fell, they reassembled themselves into new walls of Mori that cut off their escape. Arky was pounding a path through the bouncing bricks, trying desperately to find a way out of there, but the rain of bricks were falling ahead of him now, and it looked as though there was no way past them. Suddenly he spied a hole in the ground just large enough for Beta to fit in. "Quick, Beta," he yelled, skidding to a halt. "Grind this hole big enough for all of us to fit into. Maybe they won't think of looking below ground." The little mechanisti launched into the dirt, adding more flying debris to the bricks in the air. While he worked, he called out to Arky, "I wish my Uncle Digger was here. He's got a steam shovel attached to his—" "Oh, excuse me, Mrs. Rabbit. Sorry for making a hole in your roof, but we have a little problem that my Uncle Digger wants—" "Forget your Uncle Digger, Beta! Faster!" Arky yelled. Beta increased his speed, and now the dirt really spewed out of the hole. His efforts were shielded from the Gothic troops by the layers of Mori behind them. Soon he had enlarged the opening enough so that even Arky could jump into it. "Woohoo! Everybody hide in the hole!" commanded Arky, and they leapt into the darkness below. Huddling next to the frightened rabbits whose home they had invaded, they watched the chaos passing above them. It appeared as though they had given their pursuers the slip, and Arky was just about to breathe a sigh of relief when Lenny asked, "Where's Ivy?" Arky looked around, and sure enough, they'd lost her. The Gothics were evidently searching elsewhere, for when Arky poked out of the rabbit hole to scout around, they were alone. "Sorry to make such a big skylight in your living room roof," he apologized to the rabbit family. "Maybe it will increase the property value," added Beta helpfully, but the shocked rabbits only nodded numbly. Arky knew they had to move. "Come on, guys, let's go find Ivy!" But when they emerged from their hiding place, they saw that the Gothic camp was shut off by a huge wall of bricks. Ivy was trapped on the other side! "Well now," said the mother, straightening the covers, "what do you think of that turn of events?" "I told you I didn't like Golgothicus. He was very mean to melt that bicycle. I'm glad Lenny burnt his bottom." "Buttress," the mother corrected. "That is what the side legs that support his main arch are called. Yes, that was impressive. Do you remember anything that went unanswered in the story?" she added. Maybe. What the rabbit family will do with their hole?" The mother laughed. "How wonderful you remember those poor bunnies. But it was nice of the rabbit family to hide them, wasn't it?" "Yes, but now they've lost Ivy. Where is she?" the child asked. "She is clever and will find her way back to the boys, I'm sure," the mother replied. "Or maybe they will find her. She is not alone." She tucked in the covers gently. "What do you suppose Lenny wanted to tell Arky but never got a chance to?" she asked. "I don't know," came the reply. "Perhaps it was something he wanted only Arky to know. It's not good to keep things bottled up inside you. It often makes you forget about doing the right thing in front of you. Maybe that is why Lenny never remembers what he's focusing on." "I think Lenny did the right thing, even if it was an accident," the child decided. The mother got up to leave. "He tries to do his best. I'm sure Golgothicus appreciates his aims." And with that, she turned out the light and gently shut the door.